Yeah, the truth of the matter is I was nearly falling asleep. About an hour into it, yeah, I was getting sleepy. Now for Oppenheimer. Right to the point, I think the film is an hour too long. An hour could have been cut out of the film. There's some sequences that are visually beautiful. Some sections that are cut like it's a trailer, like it's a movie trailer, and it's attention grabbing and it's engaging. Yet there are also large sections of this thing that go on way too long. It's a very talky movie. And look, I'm not putting the movie down because it's about physics and things that, that will go over my head. It's not about that. Oppenheimer is a solid 3 hours. It appropriately could have been 2 hours. This is the ultimate flaw with the film for me, is that it's just too long. It's too damn long, and it's unnecessarily long. The truth of the matter is I was nearly falling asleep. About an hour into it, that was a disappointing thing. When you're sitting in the theater with a Christopher Nolan film, you don't want to feel that way. And I did. I think the marketing for the movie was really compelling, all about the countdown to the bomb, etc. But ultimately it ended up being a bait and switch. The middle section of the movie is the meat of it. The beginning and the end need to be trimmed out. Nolan isn't going to do that. My theory is that since he left Warner Brothers after the debacle that happened with Tenet and the disagreements with the studio, he then went to Universal and they said, well, it's Nolan. We got to do whatever he wants and we don't want to lose him. So they abide by his wishes by saying, yes, go ahead and make your movie 3 hours. And he does that because he can, and he's Nolan, and he is a great fucking... He is easily one of the greatest filmmakers of cinema history, hands down, but he doesn't get a pass for making mistakes. And I think he did make a mistake by making this film this long. The score is quite effective in sections of the film, and then other times it is overburdening and incredibly distracting. The performances, I mean, there's a whole heap of a cast of great actors in the film. Everyone gives solid performances, with the one exception being Dennis Quaid's son. I keep calling him Dennis Quaid's son because he is Dennis Quaid's son, and I just can't remember his first name. I love that Cillian Murphy gets a leading role. It's, when you think about it, he's been in leading roles, but in terms of this scale, no, not really. I mean, probably the best few films that I'd say he got leading roles in were 28 Days Later and Sunshine, which I'd love to see a sequel of 28 Days Later, 28 years later, hopefully. Guys, get on it, please. Let's do it. People are calling Oppenheimer a masterpiece, and I think that is an exaggeration. I don't think it's a masterpiece. I think it's a good film, or at least I think there's a good film in there. I think it lost me. It lost me in the bookend parts of the film. The bomb goes off, which, by the way, even though it's practically done, it's visually a beautiful thing to look at, but underwhelming because it looked like a small explosion to me. It didn't have the grandeur that the promotions and Nolan was hyping it up to be. He was telling people, no spoilers, no spoilers.
Trinity test sequence I do want to mention, because I think what you do with sound design in that and holding back and kind of like, I'm anticipating
no
a certain...
spoilers, please.
Okay, well, okay.
Spoilers of what? The bomb's gonna go off. What's the spoil? I mean, that there's no music? There's a sequence in which Oppenheimer is imagining, after he gives a quick speech, after Nagasaki and Hiroshima happen, he's imagining what people in the crowd would look like if a bomb went off, and he's seeing just partial glimpses of flashes of people, of skin flailing off people's faces, not in a graphic way, but just dry skin, right? And then he sees a burnt body on the ground. He steps into it. All that stuff is really fucking effective. It's really good stuff. I think he could have gone even a little bit further with it in terms of, a little bit of gore. I thought he was going to go there. It's a rated R film. Why not go there, right? The use of IMAX, the reason that you shoot with IMAX is to display an event of grand scale. If you're just shooting people and faces, to me it doesn't justify using IMAX with just dialogue sequences. The draw is to see various action sequences, and here you get one. You get the bomb. That all being said, It's really cool that a film like this is grossing as much as it is, instead of a fucking Marvel film or a DC film or a Disney reboot remake. Please stay away from that stuff, guys. Continue to stay away from that stuff. I know it's dying down, and let us see more films that are original, semi-original. This is a historical event, so it's not entirely original. I think there's a lot of talking points where it's unnecessary. The amount of time that it spends on deciding whether Oppenheimer's security clearance gets revoked is unnecessary. It's post the making of the bomb and post it going off and Hiroshima and Nagasaki happening. The movie's over. The movie's over after that. There's no... who gives a shit if his security clearance is taken away from him or not? The guy was associated at the very least with communists. So yeah, better be safe than sorry. So yeah, revoke his security clearance and be done with it. I wish Nolan could have some restraint. The black and white is unnecessary, so it's from a different perspective. It's not significant enough of a perspective or a more of an unreliable narrator enough to justify having 1/10 of the portion of the movie to be black and white. It's unnecessary. It's like, it was distracting. And for those who want to check out a version of the Oppenheimer story that's not convoluted, Fat Man Little Boy is the movie with the better pace. It doesn't putz around. It has a couple shortcomings, but I think it succeeds at being better at writing.
Pretty soon everybody's gonna have a bomb. They will. And what are we gonna do with them? Sit around, wait till they go off until boom? And then we got ourselves one world full of Michael Merrimans dying from the inside out. Is that what you're looking for? Because that's the future you've made for us. Hey, Oppenheimer! Oppenheimer! You ought to stop playing God. Because you are not good at it, and the position is taken.
And it also shows the lethality in prepping the Trinity test, where one of the scientists gets radiation poisoning and dies within days. This actually happened. Nolan embarrassingly doesn't show anything concerning that in his movie. Yeah, I didn't love Oppenheimer. Unfortunately, I wanted to. I was excited to see it. I bet there will be some people that will take this movie and they will cut it down to 2 hours, and I would rather like to see that version of the film. There are exaggerations going around of how epic and masterful the ending of the film is, and it hammers home a point that we already know. It's already been stated earlier in the film that it brought upon the human race the ability to destroy themselves. At the beginning of the film, there's a reference about Prometheus bringing fire to the world and he was punished. We get the point. It's not an aha moment. It's kind of a simple story. Oppenheimer gets recruited to build a bomb. He feels conflicted, and the movie ends. We don't even see the bombs go off. I think it would have been a good idea to show in flashes, which, by the way, some of these sequences in this film are incredibly influenced by Terrence Malick. A lot of Tree of Life vibes going on in this. Whew! Like, wow. It was as if Malick came into the editing bay and took over for a day or two to sprinkle in some of his sensibilities, which I liked. It's an example of how to do Terrence Malick the best way that it should be. I hope Nolan goes back to the point where he makes films that have elevated reality to them. Because I think he's going so far grounded to reality that he's losing the aspects of what made him such a draw with Inception and The Prestige and obviously the Dark Knight trilogy. He's losing that fantastical nature of the quality that his films used to have. Can we all agree that films today are too long? Let's make films that are 2 hours again. Anyway, I'm gonna take off.